7 o'clock, so we're going to call the Visual Resources Review Board meeting for the town of Farragut for June 2018 to call it to order. First item on the agenda, I'm going to start with one that's not on the agenda yet. As many of you may have heard, the man who's been mayor of the town for the last several years fell ill in the last few days, and he has passed away. So I would like to start the meeting tonight with a moment of silence in memory of our former mayor, Ralph McGill. Thank you very much. We're going to start tonight with the approval of the minutes from the May 2018 meeting. Is there any discussion on those minutes? If there's no discussion, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so the first item on the agenda then, or the second item, is the ground-mounted sign applications. The first one of those is for Stonecrest Subdivision's interest sign refurbishment.
Here for that?
Yeah, is anyone here for
Are y'all for that?
Stonecrest?
Okay, I thought you might.
All right.
Let's go ahead. I guess all of y'all are familiar with where this is located, at the intersection of Kingston Pike and Newport Road, right in front of David's Carpets, kind of in that part of town. And the sign has been there for a number of years, and it was approved by the town to be in the right-of-way where it is currently many years ago. What they're wanting to do now, if you've been by there recently or in the last really few years, frankly, I mean, they're just basically trying to refurbish it and re-maintain it, which the town staff certainly applauds that effort. Let me see if I can get it to, yeah. They've got a couple of different options. There's an option with black and outlined with gold, and then there's, whenever it comes up here,
Is that the gray one?
that's the gray background, and then I don't know why that other one's not showing up. There it is. Okay. The one with the gray background, that's option A, as you see there. The same size and everything. They're not expanding the size or anything. It's basically just creating a new sign face for maintenance purposes, essentially. And the second option is the black background. The staff is fine with either one. I don't know if the applicant, if you all have a preference on which one.
That's good.
To be?
That's the one we
Okay.
liked.
I like the black one.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. The option B.
Everybody okay with that? Every one of you?
That would be
That
my
one stands
preference.
out so much. So,
And the staff recommends
Don't look
approval
the same
then
way.
of option B, since they're not expanding the footprint area. I think their plan is to re-landscape around the sign too, and maybe add some seasonal flowers or something, that will complement what they're doing with the sign face. So, with that, the staff recommends approval of
I
this
have a
option
question.
B. Okay.
Do you give them a list of what is, like as far as the planting, some advice? Because you have.
I can if they need it. I
That's-
mean, I don't know if y'all are just
don't have to
planting
go by it, but
seasonal
it's a-
flowers maybe, or,
We're planting more low maintenance, just a few bushes.
okay.
The ground cover, we are hoping just to do like a nice stone, so we don't have all the weeds coming up.
Right.
And it's pretty much low maintenance.
He usually has like a little sheet, not that you have to do it, but it's really helpful.
Yeah, I
as
can
far
help
as
you if you
something
have
that's
some
not going to outgrow
questions.
and that you have to prune all the time. So he's really good at that. If you would like.
Of course, you
him.
may not want to plant anything until it cools off,
Right.
maybe in the fall, because you'll have to water it every day if you're not irrigated out there, which. So you may just want to hold off until probably October or so before you actually add any, because it's been like that
Yeah.
long enough. Plus, you'll have to do the work on the sign, which if you had landscape in there, it would disrupt it. So, yeah, so that's, I'd be happy to help you if you need that assistance. And if anybody's going to speak, you do need to come to the podium if you don't mind, on any matters.
The trees that are in front of the sign are old and actually half dead. So
Yeah.
actually, there was some there that were completely dead that actually fell over
Yeah.
when we were inspecting it. We're just checking them, and they actually collapsed. So we took those dead trees, those parts away. We would like to remove those trees and replace them with either something similar or something, again, that's not going to grow huge.
Yeah.
There's dogwoods there now. We'd like to either put dogwoods back or redwoods or something that won't get higher than, what the trees that are there now. Even, we'd like to keep it even lower. Maybe
Yeah, I'll
over time, keep them maintained and trimmed.
Okay. Yeah, I could meet with y'all out there sometime if you want and just see where you want to place the tree or trees and what might be.
Yeah, we don't want it to block the visual
Yeah.
of the sign,
Yeah.
because all the overgrowth, everything was coming from east to west. You couldn't even see the sign.
Yeah.
Once summer started with all the growth, but the
Yeah.
dead trees, I don't. It's kind of a hazard. I don't think many people are walking close enough to it if it fell over and hurt them. But I mean, they just look like a storm will come
Yeah.
by and probably knock. They might come down today, but this storm out there now. So we would like to. In a future time, but after the sign's done, part of the landscaping is to.
Yeah, in the
we'd
fall, I
like
wouldn't
to-
do that either until probably November as far as the tree planting.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
November or very early spring, one or the other,
Yeah,
but definitely
okay.
not in the hot weather.
Yeah, but it's fine to remove the dead or clearly dying trees, because I've seen those too, and I agree they're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, for safety purposes, we had to remove some of the dead branches
Yeah.
on the trees that are there already, because we're working around it. We don't want no one to get hurt.
Yeah.
I saw in the Farragut Press, where
yes.
you guys were in there. I want to commend you for moving forward and
Thank
taking a look at the sign and doing what you're doing tonight. I think it's going to be a much improved sign after you're finished.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So we'll call this option B, the black background.
All right, option B. Do we have any further discussion from the board on option B? Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve option B.
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you guys very much. That's it.
And you can actually leave if you want to.
Or you want to see it?
I can see it in your eyes like, okay, what do I do now? Bye.
Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is the Buddy's Barbecue sign. They're at Buddy's on West End Avenue.
Somebody here.
They've never had a ground-mounted sign, I don't believe, at Buddy's Barbecue, and they're requesting to add one in the kind of the southeast corner of the property, in that location you see there. The appearance of the sign, they're going to try to match the stone on the building with the base, which is something that we require in the sign ordinance, and that's good that they're doing that. The sign's very legible. I like the way they've they've treated the address numbers, where it's a little more curvature around the top. Everything complies with this request. They do have a lot of existing landscaping in this area, and they'll be, keeping most, if not all, the landscaping. They'll have to maybe take a small area out to put the sign in, but they'll be using that to satisfy their landscaping requirement, though they may want to add, some other stuff in the future, depending on, how it looks once the sign's out there. But that's pretty much it. The site plan is that rectangular sign there in the lower right corner, and that's where it is proposed to go. Since it's less than 20 square feet, it can go to within 10 feet of the property line. One thing they will need to do is verify the setback and the placement of the sign to make sure that it meets the setback requirements and it's out of any platted easements. There is a drainage easement that is just to the south of where that sign is proposed. We need to make sure that it's not in that easement, because you don't want to put the sign there and it's, somebody have to get in and replace the pipe, and it would have to take the sign out. So that's why we want to make sure that they coordinate that with the town staff. Well, with that condition, the staff recommends approval of this request.
Well, it looks like a very legible sign, very readable, fits with Buddy's color scheme, logos. Stone looks like it's going to match the building. Looks good.
Are the actual numbers 8 inches, or is that just the top panel 8 inches?
Yeah, I think
The numbers are 8
they're
inches.
8. The panel's probably about a foot,
Okay.
actually. Looks like. Yeah, the panel's a foot, the numbers are 8.
Okay. I couldn't tell on mine.
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
right there.
All right, do we have any further discussion on Buddy's sign?
Very complimentary. I mean, I like it. Looks good.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, do we have a motion?
Go ahead.
Make a motion that we approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Thank you guys very much. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a landscaping plan application for some offices off Grigsby Chapel Road.
Get to that here. We're using a different computer tonight, so it's a little bit, let me see something here. It's a little bit hard to see that. If I can turn the front light off here. Thought it might help see this a little bit better. It's really hard to
Very
see.
hard to see. I couldn't read it.
And this is not, this is the tree reservation plan, just to show you. Basically this is at the, used to be St. Mary's building, Grigsby Chapel and North Campbell Station Road, just north of the primary school. And now it's owned by Tenova, I believe. And then they're requesting they had site plan approval last week for a one-story office building that would be constructed to the south, southwest slightly of the existing building, and then some additional parking to accommodate that, and to also provide some overflow parking for the retail development on the other side of Grigsby Chapel Road. So the area that's there in the lower left is shows where the existing trees that are going to be removed as a result of this particular project. And then the next slide should be the landscape plan. I'm going to pass around, and I may have to turn the lights back on, because what's up on the screen was an earlier version of the landscape plan for this. There's a delay on this slides here, I'm finding out. So what we're passing around now shows that if you look at the western, kind of the northwest part of the parking lot closer to Grigsby Chapel Road, they're adding a lot more plant material in there. There was a meeting that the developer had with the residents in Chapel Grove, which is, they're basically due west of this property. They're actually across the creek, so there's a pretty good natural buffer between this and Chapel Grove. But to work with the residents over there. They're proposing to add, to kind of beef up that landscaping along the western edge of the parking lot, which would be in excess of what the town requires. This is a plan. The plan that's going around is one that I have not yet reviewed. I'm assuming that it's intended to address the 6 comments that were at your places that the staff was conditioning the approval on. So with these 6 comments being satisfactorily addressed, the staff would recommend approval of this landscape plan. Pretty much all the comments that the staff had on the plan were just, administrative items, just, making sure that certain things were labeled or checking the symbols and making sure that they were consistent with the plan. If they make some changes to the site plan, then they'll need to update the landscape plan. There were some subject twos that the Planning Commission had on the site plan that would affect the landscaping. So they'll have to accommodate that when they complete the landscape plan. But it'll be generally consistent with what you all have that's being passed around.
Yeah, I think we have someone here representing this, right? Okay. So one of the things Mark mentioned was there were several subject twos in our write-up, and now we have this new plan. Are you saying that everything's been addressed that he had written up here on the subject twos
Yes,
in this new plan?
yes.
Okay.
And basically, that new plan shows additional shrubs along the parking on the west side
Right.
to block headlights, and additional evergreen trees on the sloped area to the west of the parking lot, just to provide additional screening during the winter months for the residents to the west.
Because there's homes that are right there.
Well, no,
To
it's,
the
it's,
west,
they're a good distance away. They're across
Right.
the creek, and there's like Mark said, a natural wooded buffer
Okay, okay.
between us and them. And it's provides a great buffer right now during the summer months when the leaves are out, but in the wintertime, when the leaves come down, but there's a little more visibility there, so we provided the additional shrubs and evergreens to screen it a little better.
Okay. And then on the south side, that's where the school is?
Yes.
On the other side of that?
Yes.
And that's a bit of a slope in there, or is it?
Where we're showing the landscape buffer,
Yeah.
or we do have a little bit of a slope on the back side of the building.
And that's pretty heavily wooded in there right now.
Yes.
So most all of that, and it is hard to kind of tell on all this, but most all that's remaining back through there?
It'll be remaining, and what we're doing is we've showed, we've surveyed the bigger trees in there, and basically assuming that we'll just plant the screen to meet the 25-foot buffer requirement. So we went ahead and showed 4 shrubs and 4 understory trees, and augmented the bigger trees, canopy trees, in the buffer area.
Okay.
I think originally we had shown a little bit of grading in the buffer, which we've taken that off. So that's not a comment anymore. I think that was number 3, comment number 3. So we've addressed that.
Okay.
I just want to say that
If you don't mind, sir, to go to the,
this is most likely it's going to be a medical building, and doctors like to have parking in the back. Usually they don't like to walk through the waiting room, and because of the trees, we decided not to bother and not to have it. That's going to probably cost a lot for me leasing it, because most doctors like to do that. So because of the tree, we're not having back rear parking, like, so, just so we want to
Okay.
retain all the trees around.
All right, thank you.
What was his name?
Will this tie into the existing greenway that goes around behind the school at all? Will there be a tie-in?
They're actually going to move a portion of the existing walking trail as part of this project, but they'll reconstruct it, obviously, and then there'll be a connection from their parking lot to the trail at somewhere. That was one of the site plan comments. So. But yeah, the trail will still be over there. It's just going to be altered a little bit through part of it.
And then all of the traffic from this building goes out of the
Same
existing.
place.
Same
Yeah.
place as it.
Exit.
Yep, same. Yep. This is a 12,000 square foot building roughly. So I think the existing building is quite a bit more than that. I don't recall exactly.
So, it looks like, though, up near Campbell Station Road, the existing is going to remain.
Yeah, that it will
Oh.
remain for now at least. They may, add a third building at some point in the future, but it's since that's kind of an unknown. We asked them as part of the site plan review to try to limit the grading to what they needed for this phase right now, because there are some nice trees along the part of Campbell Station Road, and it's an entranceway into the town there. And maybe just try to leave them as long as we can, because you never know, there may never be a third building added there.
Okay.
So we didn't want to take them out, unless we knew there was going to be something happen in the near future with that portion of the property.
Okay, good. Okay.
We recommend approval with the subject twos that were, I'll need to check that plan. I'm fully confident that she's addressed everything, but we'll obviously need to verify it.
So where the OH, I noticed they weren't on
Yeah.
there. So they weren't in the schedule anymore. Were they replaced?
I think I showed HQ on the plantings, and in the schedule, I labeled it OH, so I'll
So you
fix
just-
that. Yeah,
It
it's the
was
same
fixed.
thing.
Okay.
All right, so for the purposes of tonight's approval, we need to more than likely approve it with these subject twos until you have a chance to verify
Yeah.
the revised.
Yeah. That would be our recommendation, yeah.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion on this landscape plan for Grigsby Chapel offices? All right, no further discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the points being approved on the new revised plan.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. All right, the next item on our agenda is landscaping plan for the Brass Lantern subdivision. This one's off McPhee Road.
Yeah, this is a new subdivision that just obtained preliminary plat approval last week. And this is just north of McPhee Park and just south of McPhee Manor. It's kind of a narrow piece of property, and they're proposing to construct 30 houses
How
in
many?
this.
30?
30. Yeah, basically probably the western fourth of the property is going to be open space. It's not showing up necessarily on this screen very well, but you can see just to the left of the upper image, well, if you can see that or not, but there's a line that kind of squirrels through there, a squirrely line on the left side, and that's a stream. That's over there on the western part of this property, and that's part of their open space. The landscape plan is, all that's really required is just the landscaping of the 2 detention basins. We now require with preliminary plats that the applicant submit what's called a streetscaping plan. And that is basically making the streets and the public infrastructure attractive and inviting, and having some kind of unique characteristic that you would identify with that development. You know, kind of like Bridgemore's entranceway that they have. It doesn't have to be that elaborate, but something that you would identify with this particular development. So the streetscape plan is something that the Planning Commission looks at as part of the preliminary plat. So they have that along McPhee Road, and that's what's on the lower portion of this drawing. That's the plant material that would be planted along McPhee Road. Then as you go into the property, they have 2 traffic calming islands that will both be landscaped, and then they have the 2 detention basins that will be landscaped as well. And those are coming up, I believe. And there's kind of a delay here, but that's the 2 islands to the left. Then those will just have shrubs in them. That's a kind of a fire marshal's request to not have large trees that the vehicles would hit because of the canopy spread. And then the 2 detention basins on the right that are landscaped there. The staff's comments, we had 4, and none of those were major. Again, just administrative items, frankly. And the staff recommends approval of the landscape plan for this, subject to addressing the 4 comments that were at your places. I don't think they have anyone here, but Mike Burson, which you all familiar with, I'm sure he's been here many times. He did this plan for them, a streetscape plan and a landscape plan. Because a streetscape plan is actually required to be prepared by somebody that has that kind of expertise, is somebody that looks at the attractiveness of the development in addition to the functionality that engineers typically look at. The landscape architects looking at that, plus how do you make it inviting and an attractive development.
I didn't think you liked red buds. And from what, am I not correct? Like red buds are okay?
They're okay, yeah. I mean, now dogwoods out in the open I would question, but
The red buds
I mean,
are okay?
they're fine. They're on our recommended
Are they?
list, and they're pretty heavily used, yeah. I mean, they're fine with me. I'm not sure about if you all have any concerns about them. They're typically a little bit more hardy than dogwoods, but they can look a little rough for first 3 or 4 years after you plant them. Takes them a while to get established.
It's a little bit hard to
Yeah.
see some of the writing on this, but going down to the streetscape plan at the bottom, you've got McPhee Road on the bottom,
Yeah,
and then you're turning into this development.
yeah. And
It's
it
gonna
lines
be-
up with the cottages at Price Farm, their access does.
Okay.
So as soon as you turn in, you got a sharp turn to the south. And we want that. We don't want to have long, straight streets. we want to make sure we have curvature in our streets to slow people down. That's
But
part of their
you've got
traffic calming.
this island in between there, and it's hard to read what the planting material is there. I guess my biggest concern is how big is that going to get as you start pulling in and out of there, lines of sight with traffic pulling in and out. I don't want there to be any obstructions.
Yeah, we pointed that out to Mike whenever I initially reviewed this landscape plan, just to make sure he looked up and looked down as far as what the utility situation was and in visibility. He does have his visibility triangles, as you can see there. They're hard to see, and he doesn't have anything in those. And he does have low plant material on the eastern half of that island. It's just Hellerai holly, just short hollies.
Okay.
And then as you go back into that island, he's got 3 crepe myrtles there.
But that'll be far enough
That'll be
back.
far enough back, and it's a type of crepe myrtle. It's a small.
Want to get large?
It's a small
Small
cultivar crepe myrtle. Yeah. Because some crepe myrtles, like some at my house, are 25 feet tall.
Mine too.
So this is a kind of a dwarf variety that would be a better fit for that island.
Do you expect this neighborhood will have a sign out
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
by the
that.
road anywhere?
Yeah, that's over on the right side. If you can, I don't have the pointer; it's not working
Oh.
with this computer.
Yeah.
But it's on the right side.
See it, yes.
See it over there?
Yes.
Oh.
That's it.
It's right
Right.
in a little square.
So that little square in there is what's going to end up being
Will
the
it
sign, or
block?
that little.
Yeah, that's what at this point. Of course, they'll have to come to you all with that. If that, they're either way, they're going to have to
Is it
bring
here?
the sign to you.
Oh, right there?
But that's appears to be where they're proposing it right now.
Okay, so that'll be back far enough that it'll be out of the
Yeah,
line of sight
yes.
too.
Is there
Yeah,
a line?
because
Is there a
there's-
street light there too?
Or
Is what's that?
hollies.
It's probably going to be externally illuminated. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they would do some of like the price farm, the little dry river beds or whatever.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do with the sign for sure, because that's going to be a separate submittal. They may modify that a little bit. But that'll have to come back to you all, obviously, with the subdivision entrance sign.
He probably has to setbacks, 'cause look where all of his lines are.
Okay, I'm confused here.
Look where all of his lines
So if you
are.
turn in here, the island's in the center, and you
Yep.
go in,
Yep.
and that little subdivision's gonna be on the right, lower right, where the sign is right here?
The sign's going to be right there.
Well, that's an open space lot as you come in on both the right and the left.
So what's on the left?
No,
It's
that's
an
not
open
what
space
they're
lot.
doing.
Both of them are
Okay.
on each side.
But it's part of that subdivision?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is there another way out, or is it just
No.
like make a circle and come back?
Cul-de-sac, you can see in the middle image there. That's the cul-de-sac. It goes back probably about 2/3 into the property.
That's one place.
They had to request a variance to just have the one access, and the reason was there's just it's kind of an environmentally sensitive area in the west, and to take a road through there was kind of defeated the purpose of this zoning district. Normally, we want to see them make connections, but the property to the west is like large estates, and then there's no connection point from McPhee Manor or the park that stubs into this property, so it really just didn't have any good options to connect. And it is, like I mentioned earlier, it is kind of a long, narrow tract, so it doesn't really have enough physical space to have a loop street system in there. So the long cul-de-sac was about all you could do with this particular piece of property. They had to get a variance on that too, because we don't normally want to see a long cul-de-sac like that.
Mark, I have a question. Right to the left, well, if you're going in, there's 11 Nellie R. Stevens. Are those not going to get
Those get
massive right
huge.
there at that entrance? I mean, I know it's outside of the visibility triangle that he has drawn right there, but
Doesn't fit
11 of
well.
those
Or major.
right together.
It's further back than it kind of looks like on the screen, because the actual curve of the road is just above where that McPhee Road is. That line above it is the actual curb line of the street. So it's way, many feet to the east of the nearest plant material that would be planted. And part of the reason for that is to not interfere with utilities through there. There's some underground utility easements. That's what a lot of those dash lines are. That they have to stay out of. So they should be, as far as visibility, they should be back far enough. We'll have to coordinate that, I think, when they get to the point of laying them out, just to make sure that they do have the physical space to, allow for, 20-foot wide, canopy. Because, like I said, the Nellie Stevens will get potentially 20 feet wide.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're,
have quit.
they're not like the
Very
Foster
fat.
Holly. They're going to be they'll be wider than that.
Major.
But they'll be a good screen, which is what he's trying to accomplish there, is to just, really heavily landscape that portion of the development along McPhee Road so that you're seeing a nice landscaped area as you go by. Kind of like what they've done to a lesser degree on the cottages at Price Farms across the street. They've added some plant material along McPhee Road, to help soften the interface between the subdivision and McPhee Road. So that's that's what he's doing over here with a little bit more intensity on this side of the road.
I think they'll look nice with the space. I mean, if there's.
It's a good
space.
comment, because a lot of times, these plans, they put stuff that is probably too close together
I don't think they're going to need a limit.
to really allow the space to grow at maturity. It looks good when it's planted,
Oh, yes.
but 20 years from that point, then it's kind of grown together and it's too close. So that's something we need to look at.
What's a large plot just above Pond B, right there, that large?
That is just a large estate lot that they can only have 30 lots in this subdivision because they don't have more than one way in and out
okay.
to meet the fire code. So that last lot is just the remainder. They just felt like they might try to market that as a large estate lot.
I was thinking it may be the clubhouse. I didn't even think.
No, they're not proposing a
do that.
clubhouse. Now, they will connect, there's a walking trail that from McPhee Manor that stubs into this property. They'll connect to that, bring it through their property, and stub it out into the town's property at McPhee Park. And then the town will connect to that as part of our next phase of McPhee Park expansion.
Is that what that is?
Okay.
That's where
So you should be able to get from McPhee Park really all the way to Bridgemore through a walking trail system, because it goes, McPhee Manor ties into Allen Kirby, and across the street you got Bridgemore. Then that goes
Oh, I
on
like there.
for a long ways. There's a lot of trails in there. So it's filling the gaps slowly but surely through there. Then they'll have a sidewalk too in this subdivision on one side of the street.
I like that too.
All right. Is there any further discussion on Brass Lantern subdivision? Further discussion? Do we have a motion? I'll make the motion to approve, subject to the 4 items noted here in our packet.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, that's the last item on the agenda, unless you have anything else.
I would announce that our youth representative is here this evening, Alex Butler. He's in the back there.
Alex?
And then we also have our new board member that will start actually next month, David Freeman. he's
David.
also here. So
David,
they're here
what's your
to
last name?
Freeman.
watch how you all operate, and hopefully they'll be back next month.
Well, we look forward to having both of you next month and up here with us next time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you for
with that,
coming.
that will end our meeting for this month. Thank you all very much.